Right now, we all know we're battling the effects of the rolling blackouts. Traffic is a mess. Several businesses find it hard to trade and make a living. In villages, boreholes relying on power stop functioning because of the power cuts. This leaves villages, especially in Limpopo, without water. I'm joined now by Moloko Moloto, who is in the Moshate village in Limpopo, but also we've got Aviwe Mtila in Johannesburg. Let's start with Aviwe, because I believe, Aviwe, that you are with the MMC Michael's son. He's been saying that the DA is looking at, making sure that Johannesburg relies on its own power and not Eskom anymore. When is he thinking that this plan will come to fruition?
Afternoon, Maseko. In fact, we're in industrial substation where MMC Michael's son has come to see what is happening here. You'd understand that, of course, there has been the overloading of this substation, which led to it not functioning anymore. In fact, I want to rope in the MMC to try and understand the exact dynamics over here, as we're also hoping to get an idea how the overloading of Eskom itself and the load shedding is impacting the Johannesburg grid. MMC, sorry to grab you as you just come in here, but maybe explain the dynamics at play at this industrial substation and the impact that it's had around Johannesburg.
Yeah, well, this is a very important substation for us because it supplies the larger industrial area and one of the residential areas, Riverlea. Unfortunately, on the past weekend, because of the load shedding, the continuous switching on and off due to a stage 4 and stage 5, the equipment then failed and caught on fire. But luckily, I've just received a briefing from the City Power team that we were able to restore, majority of the areas midnight last night. So there are just a few pockets that we need to restore. The ETR is about 6 o'clock this evening, but we're working very hard to ensure that we'll bring that ETR forward. But this is one of the fortunate things that we have to experience, is that the major transformers that you can see around us are unaffected. So this is the expensive part that's still intact. I have got the members of the community, the chairperson of the Residents Association, Mr. Anthony is there. I've got the councillors, the ward committee members. They are certainly very interested to see what we are doing. And this is why we are here, to ensure that the restoration work is done properly, that we're going to ensure that if there another load shedding stage hits us, we are prepared for it.
Just the broader picture, MMC, on load shedding and the impact it's having on the Johannesburg grid. How is it looking like?
Unfortunately, it has a terrible effect on us. The network and the infrastructure was never built and designed for load shedding. It's a continuous switching on and off every 2 hours or so that really damages these equipment. As you can see, these are not brand new equipment. The Joburg infrastructure within City Power is very old. That's why we have a 27 billion rand infrastructure backlog that we are trying to work and improve. But whilst this is happening, whilst we are doing work, we have load shedding, and we can't work when there's no power. But the more negative impact is that when there is load shedding, it inevitably, impacts on the lifespan of the equipment. And again, we have a situation like this. After this, we're going to the Rudaport substation, where cable thieves were able to get into the substation during load shedding and steal the cables. So we are facing all these dynamics, and of course our residents have to suffer, our businesses have to suffer. This goes beyond than just the lights in the houses. It's impacting our livelihoods as well.
With stage 5 and stage 6, it's quite clear that load shedding is going to be with South Africans for a long time. Any plans from the city of Johannesburg to mitigate this impact of Eskom, even moving away from the Eskom grid itself? What are the plans there?
So last week I had a very positive meeting with our City Power team. There is definitely a bright light for us in the city of Johannesburg. What we've done is that we haven't just gone out and started to look for IPPs. In fact, we've devised strategic framework that will reduce consumption of electricity. One of the very exciting projects we're rolling out, in fact, is we are installing solar panels at City Power's headquarters to lead the way, to say that we're not only going to procure additional energy, but we will be finding ways to save energy. We are retrofitting our streetlights with our LED technology that's going to conserve 3 to 5 times the normal conventional street lights. With that saved energy, we're able then to feed it back into the grid. But at the end of this month, beginning of October, we'll be releasing our first request for proposals on a gas-based IPP program. So hoping by the end of this year, we'll be onboarding many independent power producers, so our residents and our customers will begin to feel this averting of load shedding and the gradual move away from the rolling blackouts that we have to experience with Eskom. We do understand there are many good men and women within Eskom that's trying to do work, but simply we cannot rely on Eskom anymore. And we need to relook at the dynamics to ensure that we bring more independent power producers. We need to cut the red tape to ensure that we feed energy into the grid so our residents and customers can receive uninterrupted power supplies.
Just quickly, in realistic terms, what does this mean for the person, man and woman on the ground watching at home? How will it play out at their homes, and how soon can we see the move from Eskom?
We understand the problem that our residents have to face. So we are saying by the end of this year, December 2022, our residents and customers will begin to feel the difference as we start to onboard IPPs and feed more electricity into the grid, and we'll save more energy also to feed it back into the grid.
All right, thank you very much, MMC. As we're about to do a walkabout now, Maseko, of course, at the industrial substation, which was heavily impacted by load shedding over the weekend, which caused chaos in many communities around Johannesburg. We heard there that in all this darkness, there is, in fact, a bright light, a promise there that the residents of Johannesburg will start seeing the green shoots of moving away from Eskom and getting independent power from City Power directly in Johannesburg from December.
That's going to be interesting. Aviwe Mtila in Johannesburg. We also have Moloto in Limpopo, in Moshate. Moloko, you know, a lot of people usually forget rural areas during this time. And I wonder what residents in Moshate have been telling you about how they're coping with stage 5, 6 load shedding.
Hello, Masero. You are very correct. A lot of people, when they complain about load shedding, is when they are stuck on the traffic congestions. They have to navigate through the traffic lights that are not working, but also the inconvenience that they also have to deal with. But they hardly imagine themselves without access to water. But for some of the residents in rural parts of Limpopo province, the reality is that they don't have access to water as they would want to have. I'm actually in Moshate, in a place just outside Mokopane town. I'm just going to ask my colleague Mohomutsi to show you this standpipes. Ordinarily, when I open it, Masero, you should be seeing water, but there's absolutely nothing. The good thing, Masero, is that while in other parts, in rural parts of this province, you will still have people who have their standpipes communally, wherein they share their standpipes, you know, with other households. Oftentimes it would be out in the streets. In this village, the municipality has managed to install these standpipes inside the households themselves. So at least on that score, on that note, you can give it to them. But if there is no water, it's a futile exercise. But I would like to speak to the owner of this household. Her name is Bridget Lebelo, just so that she can tell us about this situation. Bridget, thank you so much. I've seen that there's no water coming out of that standpipes. When was the last time you had water?
On Friday last week.
Friday. Lebaka king ba le boditse ba masepala?
Ba re boditse ke baka la load shedding. So re load shedding ile gona a re tlhoka metsi a ga tswe go fitlhela motlhagase bile o boya a khona tlotso.
Re bona ile gore load shedding e tswela pele a go bontse o ka reng e tlo stopa anytime soon. Le gopola gore le tlo khumana ka metsi jwale?
A gona mo re ka khumana metsi re ya ka mo the next door ka mo ile re ba borile metsi, so ra khopela metsi a be le gona re khumana metsi.
Re botse ka tshitishego gore na ge le sena metsi di toilet mohlomongwe metsi go cleaner go tlhapa jwale le shoma jwang?
A gona nto re ka idia go metsi a se gona.
All right. Bridget is basically saying, Masero, that they have not had water since last Friday, and they have to go and ask to those who have boreholes in the neighborhood. And the difficulty is that there's not much they can do. For instance, they it's difficult to, just to take care of yourself, hygienically speaking. But let me speak to Mr. Philemon Moloko. He is a member of the water committee in this neighborhood. Ntate, lena ke lena ba le shomang le masepala le mokhanselara go leka gore batho ba humane metsi. Le bothata mo ke eng gore batho ba sena metsi?
Bothata mo ebele ke dintja go tshwana le metšhini ya rena ka mo masepaleng, and then le rena re lentse re tsamaya le bona ka kwa ba re tshepiša gore ne o ne le metšhini e utswitsweng ka kwa le, and then re ya re checka re khumana le gore ne metšhini e ke nnete e mengwe ya yona e sepetse, and then ba re botsa gore ba tla dira plane. nnete le ba dira plane a ba seno dia plane ba romela contract ngwa tlo ha le tamole le hololo ka mo nokeng ya borena ke lona le re ana tse maybe re khumana metsi around, and then ke taba re no khumana metsi nyana ntja re tswela jwale ba lekile ka mokgoba ka kgonang ka hona.
So if I understood you correctly, the problem more as a fella load shedding, even in cases mo eleng gore nga gona load shedding metsi e no ba bothata.
Ya metse ke paralela mo community ya borena around Mshate ka re sona le ona jela ka ba dudi go mana le re fetsa re le ka utsibile tsa matso ka dipotleng ba re rekishetsa ona batho ba borileng ba di borgate.
All right, jwale mara setšhaba ge se befelwa le shumishana yang le bona le ba kwishisha?
No, a ke nyako e letefatsa gore setšhaba se a kwishisha because ntwe golo issue mo setšhabeng le majority ka moka ke metsi. Re tsene metsi ka moka re le badudi ba mokopane Mshate re bona le re under struggle se segolo kudu ka re a tlhapa re a nwa re ape ya everything ke metsi. Ha ona ntwe le re ka feta re dile ntwe le re a le ka e dira ke taba gore re lebeletse gore re kampane ona re fetse le re re ka re ne getho.
All right, thank you so much, Ntate Moloko. Well, Masero, he's basically saying that water is a very difficult issue here. And I've observed as we were driving around here, we can see that in this village, the roads are tarred. They do have electricity. Of course, when there's load shedding like all of us, they don't have access to electricity. But the major conundrum for them is water. Not only now because there's load shedding, but ordinarily it becomes a problem. And ironically, Masero, just 2 kilometers away from where we are, there's a river that is passing along this particular village. There's so much water there, but the municipality last night when it issued a media statement alerting residents that due to load shedding it would not be able to give them water constantly. It indicated that most of the villages, over 100 of them, they are relying on boreholes. So if there is no electricity, the municipality therefore is unable to pump using those water or boreholes so that it can be able to give residents sufficient water. We are obviously going to speak when we leave here to the local mayor so that hopefully he might have some contingency plans in place. We will hear from him.
All right, Moloto in Mshate for us in Limpopo. Let's leave it there for now.